Alright, here we are, back again. Still a little stuffy. Still a little stuffy. Surprised I don't get sick more often, actually. Somebody accused me of being sick all the time, which is, I don't think that's very accurate. But, you know, when you travel from one end of the province to the other 2 or 3 times, or twice anyway, there and back, twice already. You gotta hit the BC ferries, go to the cafeteria. You got 12 different people preparing your meal. You're standing in a lineup of about 75 people, and then you're eating in a cafeteria with about 300 people. And then you get home and get tackled by some little kids. And then the older kids come home and they're both sick. Sometimes you pick up a bug, right? Sometimes you pick up a bug. Doesn't matter what you do. But anyway, I went out to the coast yesterday. Had a buddy of mine. He's a logger. He's got the key to get through the gate where that road has still been blockaded since our big forest fire last year, which means like a 9-hour trip to drive there and back if you go all the way around through Couch and Duncan. He had a key, so we left at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. And I didn't know it, but it's poured rain like crazy, unfortunately. But I managed to grab one of my trail cameras, and I got a bunch of elk on it. It was pretty cool. I'll share some of those clips at the end of this, maybe. Then I jumped to my boat in the rain and threw some gas in it, and I put the 360 camera on. I didn't bring the internet with me. It's nasty, shitty weather. I was almost thinking about streaming that trip live, the inlet, but it's like foggy and rainy and snarky the whole way in. But I did put the 360 camera and the GoPro on the outside of the boat, and I hit record on both of them. Haven't even looked at it yet. Let's see what it looks like. It was pretty cool. Well, I'll share it with all you guys. So I wanted to hopefully take everybody along that ride and show you some of that remote looking inlet, and also those hills on either side of the inlet are somewhat populated at times with some beings that we're not allowed to know about. For reals. Now, what do we got? We got a lot. I was supposed to read some more from those 11 pages I got sent to us from Corbin Dallas, right? Well, we got a couple emails here first, then I'll hit that for a little bit. What else? One quick note, I was thinking about this on the long boat ride in. My eyes glued to the ocean so I wouldn't hit a log. You know, I mentioned this earlier, when we need to learn from people's mistakes and quit mimicking people. Don't mimic people. Don't do what people do. Like, especially if you're trying to find answers. You know what I mean? I watch people. That's why I listen to everybody. I listen to as many people as I can. I watch people and I learn. I learn from people. Unfortunately, both my parents basically taught me what not to do with my life, unfortunately. And I had to watch them figure out the chaos, survive it, and then realize what was probably right and probably wrong to do in life. Okay? Follow me. Anyway, but that goes a long ways in a lot of areas of life. But if you are here avidly trying to seek out knowledge and reasons of what the hell you saw in the woods without asking what's going on out there, well, all you got to do, well, I shouldn't say all you got to do, but one important thing you should take note of is if you look at all the past so-called big names of the Bigfoot Sasquatch community, you watch what they did all their lives. You listen to their words, what they talk about, what do they focus on, what did they do? And then you just come up to the realization, well, they died without getting the answers. Right? So, questions you may want to ask yourselves are, where did they go wrong? What did they repeat doing? What did they focus on the most? Okay? Seriously. What were they doing? What were they focusing on the most? What did they talk about the most? To ensure that they did not get the answers. They didn't get the answers they were after. Did they? I'm just saying. I'm using that as a kind of an easy example. A lot of people go through life doing shit. They have a position they may be in a position of influence, and they're doing the wrong things, but people mimic them. Right? Don't mimic. Watch. Listen to your gut and learn. Watch, listen to your gut and learn, and make sure your gut makes your decisions, okay? Okay. There you go. I've learned a lot. I'm lucky. I'm very, very fortunate myself. You know, I haven't had been very fortunate to have figured that out at an early age, watching and learning and not doing things that the majority of the people did. I've done that all my life as a rule. And you know what? I haven't had a boss. I haven't had a human being. I haven't had a human being in the position of telling me what I am going to or not going to do today or tomorrow. Since probably I was 24 years old, I think, 25. And now I haven't borrowed 1 cent from anyone since I was probably 24, 25, 23, 23 maybe. I learned that was a lesson for me to never do that again. Never did it. Never did it. Well, how did you do that? I didn't fall into the trap. I didn't do what everybody did. I learned and I watched everybody and I learned what was the right and the wrong thing to do. I worked my effing ass off. And I never spent money on stupid shit. I saved my money. I wanted something. I saved my money and I bought it. Or I bought something that would make do until I could maybe afford something a little better later on. That's what I did. All right? That's what I did. I learned from watching humans fail. That's how I've learned through life, by watching humans fail. Watching humans do the wrong things. And I've never been sucked into following or doing what everybody else does. I've never mimicked somebody in my life. Anyway, I'm babbling, but I'm just saying, when it comes to answers, when it comes to a lot in life, you really got to step back, look in the bubble. Certainly, too, I've always tried to encourage people to jump out of your bubble, go somewhere. Go somewhere for a week, for a weekend, whatever. Just go somewhere. Jump out of your bubble and you kick back and you look back in through that hazy, thin veil into your bubble and see where you're screwing up and see what needs attention. See where you're doing well. Focus on it. I make sure I jump out of my bubble a lot to catch myself screwing up or wasting time and doing the wrong thing, right? Anyway, babbling. Hope you got the message. Hope you got the message. Or I hope I got the message through that I'm trying to get through. You know, don't mimic people. Don't mimic. Don't be a frickin' echo. Don't be a parrot. Don't be a herd animal. Think for yourself. Pick your own trail. Use your gut to make your decisions, no matter what anybody says. All right? Don't die without the answers. That's what we're trying to do here. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to die without the answers. Right? I don't want to die without the answers. That's a big fright of mine. I don't want to die and then go, oh yeah, sons of bitches, you got me. Which I've said that quite a few times. Now, yes, I've been taking ivermectin. I've been taking oil of oregano. I've been taking vitamin C. I ate 3 oranges. I've been doing everything. I'll get this fixed up here. It'll get fixed up. Now, let's listen to some people, shall we? Let's listen to some truth. You see what I'm getting at? How valuable this is? If you're here for entertainment, well, you're losing. But if you're here for answers, you're winning. You listen to as many of the people as you can, and you kick the people who want attention to the curb. Step number 1. Okay? Listen to the people. As many as you can. That's why I can't stop doing this. This is my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner when I do this daily. It's like, yeah, feed me. Feed me more knowledge. Excuse me. This is titled Bigfoot. Hey Steve, my name is Matt, and I'm a native to Idaho. I don't share this story because of the general reaction people give in the topic, but since I've seen your videos, I've seen more people reaching out and would like to share mine as well. Beautiful. Around 5 years ago, I was whitetail hunting the late rut around November 24th in northern Idaho, around Orofino, on a friend's property. We were camped on the edge of a clear cut in a wall tent, and around 1 a.m., we started to hear what sounded like tree limbs being knocked together. Excuse me. And loud shaking on tree limbs. We figured it was nothing, went back to sleep. But the next morning I went and sat on the far end of the tree line about a mile from our camp by myself, while my old man hunted the next property. I was watching a few does and about 25 turkeys when out of nowhere I heard what can only be described as a blood-curdling scream. Not quite like a woman or a human of any kind. It sounded just like an ape, wailing as loud as it could. As soon as the screech stopped, every turkey in that clear-cut field gave off the yelp that they call out when predators are near, and the field emptied in seconds. The next few minutes were pure silence. No turkeys, no animals, moving, nothing. I got a horrible feeling something was watching me, and I walked back to camp with my rifle loaded and shitting my pants. It couldn't have been anything else. I was raised in the woods, and that's the only time I've ever heard that sound, and that day I became a believer. Matt, welcome to the club, Matt. More like a knower. You accepted all the facts, all the eyewitness testimony from the people, and you heard that shit yourself. You know, it's kind of weird how when that does go down, the game goes, whew, the game takes off. There's a field there. The last place I'd be doing is disappearing into the bushes with that screaming out of the bushes, right? When you want to go dead smack in the middle of the field. Kind of like that mountain goat. There may be a lot of new people here, and I shared this a while back. A friend of mine actually helped him and his 13-year-old daughter get that archery elk last fall before. And he lived at a place called Owl Ridge subdivision near Mount Curry, right in the backyard. And his neighbor told him that a mountain goat came running out of the forest behind their house, facing south. And the mountains are back in behind there, but you have to go probably 600 to 700 yards through sloping, clear-cut timber to get up into those mountain cliffs where the mountain goats normally rip around. And that mountain goat bursted out of the timber and stayed in their front yard all day long, and it was panting. And they said something big and black was in the forest behind their house, but it wouldn't come out. Staying in the middle of the field reminded me of that one. Smart goat, lucky goat. Surprised that big black thing didn't just go out and grab the goat anyway. Who's next? North of Winnipeg. Hello, Steve. My name is Eldon. Forgive me about my spelling grammar mistakes. I just find it so time-consuming trying to be great at typing, lol. Yeah, I don't try to be great at it, that's for sure. Anyway, I'm so glad I finally found someone online and who's real about what's out there and not full of shit. I have some stories. Right on, my man. We all attract each other, right? This place is nothing without you. I am First Nations, and I live on a reserve not far from Winnipeg. I lived in Squamish, BC for 12 years, 2002 to 2012. My girlfriend is from Macleese Lake and born in Quesnel. Part of her mother's family comes from Alkali Lake. Familiar with all of the above. Anyway, I get to a story from out here years ago. I have numerous stories, but I type real slow, so I will at least try to share one. Back in the mid-70s, our reserve was very dark. Only 2 hydro street lights in the whole community. Neither were by any homes. Most people didn't even have hydro. Still lived old ways. My grandfather, who was about 77, and a big old man type, real big hands, like my dad, worked hard all his life, hauling coal and hand-loading boxcars. So our regular roads were gravelled, but the old team trails were still being used by hunters and trucks in the deeper parts of the bush. They would just walk as the trails were already getting narrow for vehicles. So Grandpa used to always walk the team trails wherever he went. He said he didn't like the newer roads, as he called them. I even hunted on those trails when I was in my early teens. One late evening, my dad and some of my sister and brothers were at Grandpa's waiting for him to come home, while Pete Hockaluk's old store was a few miles through the forest. Not far if you go regular road, but as it was almost pitch dark, my dad said, "You will see Grandpa coming out of the bush soon." And pitch dark, here comes Grandpa out of the forest. I asked my dad, "Isn't Grandpa scared?" "No, he grew up back there." So anyway, nothing Nothing happened, all clear, and one night my dad, my uncles, and brother and Grandpa drinking, as usual for Friday night. Grandpa came over every Friday night, and Dad or a mom or a brother would pick him up, have some beers with Dad and his company, but drank normal and didn't get fall around drunk like some when they drank, lol. My dad and them drank with Dad and them drunk usually, Grandpa would walk home. He lived 3/4 of a mile from us, and Old Team Trail ran in front of our house and Grandpa's. And new road built higher running parallel on the far side to Old Team Road. So on the west side was high poplar trees. We lived north of Grandpa. So I noticed later that week, Grandpa walking by on the new road going to the store and walking home way before dark. I asked my dad, hey, what happened to Grandpa? He's not only walking the high road, but he always gets home before dark, long before dark. So Dad told us the other night when Gramps walked home, on the right side of the trail, just out of the bush, someone very big and hairy came out. Grandpa couldn't make him out who he was because it was dark out, but he can see somewhat a silhouette against the sky, as the poplar bush line was higher up in the bush and Team Trail lower. Dad said Grandpa stopped walking because this thing came out and was standing there. From what I can remember, Dad said that according to Grandpa, it was only like 10 to 12 feet from him, and that it was like over 7 feet tall, maybe 8 feet, he said. So my dad said that Grandpa was smoking a rolly tobacco and started talking Indian, Ojibwe language, to it, and kept puffing on a cigarette. He didn't want to puff too hard, as he really didn't want to see what was standing there, quite and huge and dark and hairy. So after talking to this thing, Grandpa, as scared as he was, said to the thing, well, I'm going home now, and have a good night, and slowly started walking toward home and kept his eye on the creature. He said it just turned and walked back into the forest. Grandpa wanted to come back to my dad's, where everyone was drinking and loud, and was scared to go home alone, but he didn't want to walk by that creature's path again, so he went home and barricaded himself in. I come from families of working people, and lots of life experiences and lots of action, so never a dull moment. But I know them my life growing up, and Dad and his brothers and Grandpa never liked bullshitters, liars, or scammers. They got along good with anyone who worked for a living, as long as they weren't full of shit. So I can say Grandpa's story is true. Dad raised us a little bit crazy, though. He was always weary of the bush, taught us how to use guns, and especially the .303 British. The rumor around here back in the 60s and 70s was that there were tramps, ugly, scary men who evaded the war and lived in the bush like transients. So us boys said that we would aim to kill one of these uppers if they ever tried coming around our house. We did lots of shooting around, so most people didn't F around our home, lol. Just thought I'd share that. I have more stories. Some, given the location, will probably very hard to believe, but nice thing was, we had other people stop and witness the same as we'd seen. So let me know. I'll send a friend request on Facebook. I won't be offended if you don't add me, because I know you must have shitloads of requests now. All cools, talk to you soon. P.S. You're going to laugh at my theory on what these things are, lol. Right on, Matt. I absolutely appreciate that email, Eldon. And you know what I'm going to put a look into? And I'm going to send this to Sarah, and I'm going to get her to, get a hold of you and see if you want to come on here and have a bullshit session with me about all this in life for everybody to listen to. So I hope you do. It's easy. If you got a laptop or even your phone, an iPhone, it's easy. And I don't do Facebook. I'm on there, but I just don't. Who knows? I think there's around 10,000 friend requests on there or something. You're right. I don't really go on there. Okay, look into. I'll put Sarah beside this too to make sure it gets in there quick. And I'm gonna get this. See if she wants to get a hold of this man for us and hear what he's got to say. I'm interested, and I believe Grandpa, big time. Who's next? Quick note, I saw today there's a travel advisory for the United Kingdom. Go figure. They've done a... excuse me. They've done a hell of a job with their country, haven't they? They've just done a hell of a job with the United Kingdom. It's amazing, isn't it? A travel advisory for the United Kingdom. Usually it'd be a travel advisory for something like war-torn Iraq or a travel advisory for Afghanistan. You know, you don't really want to go holidaying there right now, I don't believe. Where else? The Ukraine? Ukraine probably get a travel advisory for sure. But now the United Kingdom has their own travel advisory for the globe. Well done, you effing losers. The government, that is, not the people. Hopefully your time's coming, you bad sons of bitches. Now, excuse me. That was a word from our sponsor. Me. Okay. Steve, this is a Sasquatch encounter in western North Carolina, USA. Alright. Hey man, I'm RJ from Burke County in western North Carolina near the South Mountain State Park. I've rode dirt bikes since I was in middle school, dug wild ginseng since 10 years old, and hiked countless hours. Of all the time out in the forest, of all the miles off the trail, the only time I've ever had my hair raised for no reason was on Brown Mountain. There's an off-road park for riding there called Brown Mountain Beach 4x4 Rec Area. And I was on a trail called 1A, supposedly the hardest and the longest. I'd ride bikes and my two friends, I was there with, ride quads. We're probably a quarter of the way down the trail, and the quads couldn't make it up this climb that is literally boulders. Only 2 pics of that day are of these boulders, and I'll include them. I made it up and waited, talking smack to them for about 20 minutes because their quads couldn't make it. They were about to give up, so I got on my bike and left them, thinking if I went on, they would try harder and get up the boulders. Well, I rode easy for a bit, trying to hear them the best I could over my engine, but I never did. I'd never been on this trail, even though I'd been here twice before and figured it can't be too long. I'll just finish it and meet them at the truck for water and gas. Well, this trail went on, winding through thick natural hemlock, and being alone, I wasn't going fast or riding too hard because I didn't want to wreck and possibly get hurt. I'd have no way for help. Around the halfway point of this trail, you're at the top of this pretty big and wide and flattish area, but still kind of curvy. I'm cruising along this barely steep, more open area, probably an hour since I left my friends. Then coming into that flat, I can see kind of far and all around for once. I'm second gearing, just looking around, enjoying the area, when on a higher knoll off-trail, I saw, across the woods off-trail, I'd say 150 yards away in front and left of me, what I thought was a fat brown bear, 10 foot. 10 foot up the side of a giant hemlock, and not looking at me. I looked as long as I could, probably 3 seconds max, but I'm driving with my helmet and goggles. Gotta pay attention. Right when I looked away, I see its head turning my way, but that's it, no face, just the movement. The trail, brushy now, and was winding, but pretty much going towards the bear, so I'm thinking, damn, I hope it stays in that tree, because I can't see through the rhododendron to know. I get across the flat to a right-hand uphill curve, the bear being off to the left, probably 75 yards, and I think, hell yeah, the trail's turning right and not going any closer to it. I just started that right-hand curve when whump. Now I ride a Kawasaki KX250F bike. It's very loud, and with a helmet, it's less loud, but so is everything else. I don't know what the hell happened, but it was like a tree fell right beside me on my left side. I'm saying I felt this shit on the ground through my bike to my hands. It scared me so instantly that I gunned my bike hard. Well, that curve led into just this series of curves, switchbacks going uphill, only like 10 feet at a time. I'm holding on for my dear life. My bike is set up for torque, so I'm laying on the handlebars trying to keep it down the whole time. My hair on my neck is just on end. I seriously thought I was about to get grabbed and mauled, but I never looked back. The trail was just winding, not going anywhere but back and forth to climb out of that flat. I just knew that brown bear was going to run me down. What? And then it hit me right then. Probably 20 seconds after that, whamp! Right when that hair-raising feeling was kind of going away, it hit me. There's no brown bears in North Carolina. I almost effing puked. I rode my bike like an unbroken wild stallion. I can't explain the amount of, oh goddamn mother F, I was feeling in that moment. Sorry, Steve, but I seriously kept repeating this in my head. I knew I'd seen Sasquatch then, I knew. I never saw the bear's legs. Hell, I never saw an arm clinging on the tree. What I saw was brown, at least 10 feet off the ground beside a big hemlock. And I knew it had turned and moved like to look my way right when I looked away, and bam! I was so tore up emotionally thinking about this shit that I lost control. Let my front end come up, and before I could drag my back brake, I knocked a small tree with my right front shock and laid the bike down opposite onto its left side. I got up, the bike still running, and went to grab the clutch so I could pull it as I stood the bike back up to keep it running. My clutch lever had snapped off, jabbed into the ground from the wreck. F me, M-F-er. Hell, I said most of this shit aloud. Since that wham, I'm freaking. Stopped the engine, hit neutral, gave my girl a big gulp of octane and slammed second gear, and I never looked back. Luckily, my bike has synchronizers, and you really only need to clutch to take off. I was a nervous, dirty, sweaty dude when I reached the truck. The only part my friends believe is that I wrecked because I didn't know until I got back that I'd lost my right front shock guard, and my clutch lever was broken. Popped open a Red Bull and went to rolling the fattest joint my shaking hands would let me. I don't think I've ever seemed truly scared except for that day. The only other time I've ever felt like puking instantly was when I was told I was going to be a dad. It'll take another very real event like death, life, or finding out my reality isn't totally reality as I thought to do that to my emotions again. Here's some better food for your minds, though. What does your government have to hide by denying very real species from us? Well, that's my story about impossible brown bears and the heaviest thud that ever happened near me. RJ. Here's the only pictures I ever stopped to take at the bottom of the Boulder Hill climb. Okay, there's one. So, I'm not sure where that boulder climb is where the quads could go up there, but quads wrecked a lot of people's spines. I'll tell you a quick story in a second. Here's the other picture. The only two pictures he took that day. Cool rocks. There's not really common rock formations like that around me. Well, maybe around Squamish there might be rocks that are similar in shape. Around Squamish in some places. Quads are very, very dangerous. I'm going to tell you guys a story in case you didn't know. This information might help someone, okay? I was in the middle of frickin' nowhere. Snow was on the ground, and it was clear out, and it was going to be about -10 that night, and I was loading my quad into my truck by myself. Nobody knew where I was. No cell service, as usual. And I put my quad ramp up on my tailgate, and I thought it was dug in the ground. No problem behind me. And the quad I had is a 450 Yamaha, an older one. And I went to ride the quad up the ramp into the tailgate of my truck, into the box of my truck, and I shot the ramp out behind me, and the quad went boom, and it was coming down on top of me. Coming down straight on top of me. So the ramp went down. I landed on my back on top of the ramp with the quad coming straight down on me. And I held, I don't know how I did, but I held that sucker up as hard as I could without crushing my throat or anything, and I managed to get it off to the side. But it really creeped me out after that, at the thought of how I broke my back right there behind my truck in the middle of nowhere when the sun was going down. It was going to be -10 that night. It would have been a long, shitty death. Right? It would have been a shitty death. But anyways, when I got back to the job site, and I was telling the fellows in the job site in Whistler that Monday how dumb I was, and the customer who was building the house, he had paralyzed himself from a quad accident, and he said, and he survived it, but he said that in the paraplegic ward, I guess it was, whatever you want to call it, he said that 90% of the paraplegics in the whole ward were from quad accidents. So there you go. All you guys with the quad. I've never forgot he told me that. Never. Just saying. All you people with quads, they put a lot of people in wheelchairs for life. And I'm not anti-quad, obviously. But I'm just saying that's a fact. So be careful out there. I'm very lucky. Another time I may have possibly cheated death. That would have been a cold, shitty, long death. Mystery Encounters is this next email. Hey Steve, I've been watching your videos on YouTube for the past several months, and it jogged my memory about an incident that happened approximately 40 years ago. There were 2 carloads of us heading down to northwest Arkansas from the Kansas City area to canoe the Buffalo National River. We were traveling at night, planning to be on the water the next morning, and had gotten ourselves completely lost trying to find our campsite / put-in point. So, it was around 2 or 3 in the morning on a dirt road somewhere in the Boston Mountains. And we'd stop both vehicles to look at a map spread out on the hood of my 73 442, armed with nothing but a flashlight. Pretty sure it's safe to say we were all inebriated in one way or the other. A bunch of us city kids, 6 of us I think, getting out of town to experience the great outdoors for a few days of camping / canoeing. Well, we're looking at this map and nobody could make an intelligent decision as to keep going or to turn around. Go back the way we came till we could find a location that was on the map. And then we heard the howl / growl. Whatever made that noise sounded like something big. Like really big. Everyone froze. And we all simultaneously said, "What the F was that?" Now I've watched your videos and a few others regarding Bigfoot encounters, and the thing that brought this memory back into my head was hearing people talk about getting rocks thrown at them. First I thought this had to be a black bear. Not knowing what a black bear really sounds like, I figured it was the only thing big enough to match that howling growl. Then the rocks started flying. That put the fear of God in us. And it was just, get in the effing car and go. Whatever it was, it wanted us gone, and we were happy to oblige. We pretty much laughed the experience off. Like I said, we definitely weren't sober, and the trip concluded without another incident. The only thing that bothered us was, what the F kind of animal throws rocks at people? We never saw whatever made that noise and threw the rocks, and over time, no one brought it up again. I plan to mention it to the boys that I still have contact with sometime in the near future, but I'm not going to suggest what I think it may have been. Why not? I would. Curious what their recollection is, or if they remember it at all. That's my story. A mystery encounter that's been put back into my thoughts from seeing your videos. I never believed in a Bigfoot being actually existing, but the more I think about it, the more I wonder what the hell was that thing we crossed paths with. Anyway, enjoy your postings, both Bigfoot and hunting, and keep up the good work. Stephen Alt, Independence, Missouri. Stephen, appreciate the email, man. Yeah, run it by those guys, but, take it a step further and maybe show them one of these videos, tell them to listen up, and realize that there's no bullshit about this topic at all. Well, there's lots of bullshit surrounding it with some wackos, but there's no bullshit here. We're trying to get to the truth, right? Spread the truth. Excuse me. Next email is titled, Snippet from the Hardmans. The Hardmans, that's the couple who they came on here with us, but the camera got all screwed up on there. And the auto program for the podcast program, when you're recording, you see everybody fine. And then it renders the whole thing itself, which takes almost an hour and something, and then it posts onto YouTube. Well, it screwed everything up. It screwed everything up. So we took it down by request of the Hardmans, and they're going to come on here again eventually. I'm quite certain. They have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. So we got an email from them. Hey Steve, this is Eric Hardman. I feel like perhaps the way to go from here is to share some separate experiences my wife and I have had that didn't get spoken of. In that spirit, here's a short but interesting story. Alright, we're going to have to share it all again because it's all down, right? Excuse me. You've heard/read stories of people getting rocks and sticks and pine cones thrown at them, and even experienced this yourself. My wife and I have had this happen numerous times, but this encounter took a quick turn for sure. We were up in the mountains, it was getting dark, but I always take things to build a fire with if I think we'll be late. So we found an already constructed fire pit, which was just a small dugout surrounded by a ring of rocks. You've no doubt seen hundreds of these in various campsites. And I carry a small shovel with me on these trips, so I like to scoop out all the old ashes and unburnt wood before I build a new fire, just to promote better airflow and have a cleaner starting point. We had our camp chairs with us and plenty of wood for a couple of hours. This is one of our favorite things to do. And as we're sitting there enjoying the fire, we both hear the unmistakable sound of a click, like a small stone hitting wood. This is a sound we've become accustomed to over the years, as we've heard it on numerous occasions. We looked at each other with, "Did you hear that?" expressions on our faces. We must have company that wants to be acknowledged. But after about 1 minute of hearing that sound, our campfire exploded. You can imagine our shock as we hear a huge bang and watch all the embers and wood just get propelled out of that fire pit. Holy shit, no doubt. So what the hell happened? My wood wasn't wet at all, no rocks underneath, no air pockets I was aware of, nothing I could think of as a natural occurrence. I've been around many campfires in my life, and I've never seen anything like this. So I start to theorize what could have happened. I settled on it. Must have been a live round that got tossed into our fire. Oh, you mean like a live firearm round? That would account for the click noise we heard as it hit firewood and then dropped in the fire. What? No way. The only other possibility I can come up with is there was a live round in the fire pit, but I'd cleared the pit out down to solid ground. Excuse me. I think I would have noticed a round of ammo if it was rolling around in the bottom of the pit, so we just chalked it up to, well, maybe they didn't know that a fire would touch off a live round, or maybe they did. But that little encounter was definitely something I don't think many people have had. No doubt. That was definitely an eye-opener. We have so many tiny experiences like this that we sometimes forget some of them. That's why Caroline was all over the place trying to tell us as much as she could on your show. Oh, hell. It's exciting to finally get it out, right? Okay, I gotcha. We'll talk to you again for sure, without a doubt. We'll have you back on here. I can't wait. We can even have you on here one at a time if you want or whatever. But I think, quick note for you guys, I think how the program works would have to work with 3 people is you have to have 3 different people, all get 3 different invites on 3 different sources, like 3 different phones, 3 different laptops, whatever, and then everybody gets their own individual window, right? That's how it works. Other than that, I think the automatic AI in it, or whatever it's called, focuses in on the middle, which cut you guys both in half. Yeah, we'll get it straightened up for sure. Can't wait. You guys got a lot to share with the planet, and this is a good place to do it. Appreciate you, man. Bit of a shitty trick throwing a live round in the fire in front of somebody. Alright, this next email, there's no titles, no anything. It was actually written in where the title of your email goes. A lot of people do that sometimes. just starts off with, "It was amazing to see. I was 14. I walked with our cow after milking to the pasture. I did this because if I was with them, I would see deer close up. I had one little brown cow. I walked with my arm around her back. One fall evening, all the leaves had fallen, and I heard shuffling of the leaves on the bluff, and the cows all lifted their heads looking in the direction of the trees. They started to move closer to me, gathering in a close mass. Heads up, ears turned to the sound. They were completely silent. There were 45 cows and our bull. They were surrounding me with my little cow. Heads up, ears turned to the man coming down the bluff. The man who looks to be all black with his hood up. His head looks cone-shaped. He jumped down the sandstone ledge. Surprised me, because that ledge is at least 10 feet tall. Then I noticed he was as tall as the ledge, and he's now about 50 yards away. He came to the tree line. He stood looking at the cows, his hand on the branch of a large oak tree. Now he was at about 70 feet away. The cows were still there. They made no sound at all. It was so strange not to hear them make no noise at all. Then I noticed that the man was wearing fur boots. The fur was blowing in the wind. Who wears fur boots in the woods? Then I realized it was all over him, and the arm it had raised holding the branch also had hair. Wow. Some hippie is walking around the woods. It was 1973, and I had no idea what I was looking at. The man then turns and walks away along the tree line. He disappeared into the hills. The cows all took a deep breath before going back to grazing. I've never seen the cows behave that way ever before." End of email. That was it. No name, no nothing. And another club member joins. Just like that. Wow. Crazy. Okay, one more. I got a lot more chores I gotta do. Got this damn boat home, and it is filthy. Steve. Hi, Steve. These were captured on my brother-in-law's trail camera last night. Attached are 4 separate up-close photos. These were taken in Pasadena, Maryland. This is exactly what I saw on the same property back when I was 16. I've seen them a few more times since. Please share. You can use my name, Kevin King. Okay, Kevin. Got him. That is definitely a round ball of light. It's not a moth. It's not a mosquito. It's not a spider web. That's a ball of frickin' light. Wow. Amazing. And you've seen it before. You must have been pretty excited to see him on the trail camera, huh? Especially after telling a few people what they saw, and they probably just looked at you with that glazed over look on their face. Now, what are the balls of light? Hey, guys, what are the balls of light? Amazing. Amazing capture. Man, that's bright. That's very bright. You can almost see the color in the green, a faint green color in the background, which would have been illuminated from the light, right? Because all the other trail, that's a Moultrie. Yeah, Moultrie doesn't have color night vision. Yeah, it doesn't. I think somebody's starting to come out with it, but trail cameras, night vision's gray, black, no color. So that must have been lit up from that ball of light. Wild. Well, keep us posted on anything else you see, I guess. I mean, what can I even say to that besides, holy shit, what a crazy capture. You caught it. You got it. You did it. Perfect. By accident, obviously. Wow. And I bet there's how many thousands of people watching this video going, I seen the same thing. Right? Seeing the same thing. Alright, I'm going to get moving, you guys. If I can, if some of that video turned out, I'm going to share some of the boat ride back at the end of this video, okay? Excuse me, I gotta get this stupid bug out of my system. But anyway, I'll be back tomorrow, I'd imagine. I hope everybody's doing what they love to do today. I hope. And share my story at howdot.com. That's where you get your truth shared with the people. I'll be back later, you guys. Appreciate everyone. Later.